Hi, Dr. P here to talk about snowball and engine games. Usual caveat, these screencasts are made to be listened to, not watched, unless you're hearing impaired, and then the very wordy slides will help you a lot. So, what am I talking about? Snowballs are usually economic, but not necessarily. They occur when a player gets ahead, more or less inevitably continues to get further and further ahead because of the nature of the game. It's like a snowball getting larger as you roll it through sticky snow. And whoever does that first is going to win the game. For example, you might have a game where the player can research or spend to improve economic output. And that improved economic output allows you to produce more and to do more research or spending, and it just keeps building up. Engine games are all about providing the right inputs to get the best output. They are natural puzzles, exercises in optimization. There's usually a best way to do things, a best move. And that's not true in other kinds of games. It's certainly not a best move that you can calculate and know is always right. So an economic snowball game is usually an engine game, but there are other kinds of snowball games. The problem, though, is the same. Now I'm talking about games for more than two sides. Snowballs aren't a problem in games for two or fewer sides because when one side gets the snowball rolling, the game should end. Whether that's by resignation or by the rules of the game, it should end. We don't have those options generally with more than two players. I will say that I do, in rules for a few victory point games that are for more than two players, that are war games, I provide for ending the game early if one side gets way ahead. How does the snowball occur? A snowball occurs when the game is deterministic. That's when it's most likely to occur. And there are no explicit catch-up mechanisms. And there are few ways for one player to significantly hinder another. When someone gets ahead, then naturally he or she continues to get farther ahead. How do you prevent snowballs? Well, the first way is to provide ways to directly hinder or harm another player, as in war games. The second is to build chance into the system that could cause the leader to falter, but that's not a good idea because it's leaving it all to chance. And when you're designing games, you don't want to do that. You want the game to work because you designed it to work a particular way. Or you can provide an explicit catch-up mechanism, but many players dislike catch-up mechanisms. And any combination of the three are also possible. Now, a well-designed war game cannot be a snowball. Again, because there are lots of ways to hinder other players. Two or more players can gang up on the snowball leader, for example. However, there are many 4X war games that become economic snowballs, and that's partly because the other players don't know it's happening, so they can't react to it. Many computer space war games are of this type. 4X, by the way, means explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. A computer civilization is also in many ways a 4X game and can have the same problem. So, you as a designer need to be aware. Now, many games by their nature don't suffer from snowballing, but engine games often do. It's up to you to guard against this. If you keep it in mind, you can look for it and do something about it. And aside, it seems that players rarely play a game more than a few times these days. If that's the case, the snowballing doesn't become a big problem. But as far as I'm concerned, you should always treat your game as though it will be played dozens of times, not just a few times, if you want to make a really good game. Snowballs that can't be stopped are a design flaw, but they're not uncommon these days in games. Thanks for listening.